Welcome into the Dad Verb Podcast, where we chat about parenting from the lens of a dad. My name is Andrew, and on this episode, we're going to be kind of recapping a little bit of our year and talking about our biggest parenting moment and our biggest parenting lesson that we've learned this year. This is going to be our last episode of the year, by the way, and we're going to take a mini break, and we'll be back to start 2024. This is going to be our last episode of 2023. As usual, I am joined by Andrew Saunders, who's back. Took a little break from that last episode talking about vasectomies. And
I want it to be a
Ben.
surprise.
Yeah. Andrew's back. Andrew Saunders is here, and Ben is here. And as usual, we have to start with our sick check. And I'm just going to lead it off. And I'm going to already break the streak because we are all sick. Son had a asthma attack. He's on a nebulizer now, just like I was. He's got my genes, the asthma genes. So it's cold.
Are those Levi's or Wranglers? I'm just for curiosity.
How's everyone else doing? How's Andrew doing?
We sneezed up pureed food.
Oh.
So I was a little concerned that it was like, where did this? And then I was like, oh, that's just your dinner. All right. I don't know where you were storing that or why it was in your sinuses, but sure. We are not sick. However, I am going to caveat that with we had our first traumatic injury. So my daughter has one of those balance bikes, right? It's got two wheels in the front, one in the back. They can walk and push, and the idea is that they get their left and right balance done. Mm-hmm. It's about a 1-inch lip with one of those metal lip things going between our living room and our kitchen. She hit that thing full bore, front wheel stop, over the front bars she goes, lands right here
on
and
the
just
lip?
digs those front two incisors into her top lip. And it's just like
bleeding.
Wow, you young little vampire, you just ate somebody, didn't you? Like, and there's tears, and so it was very traumatic.
Was it an urgent care trip, or was it?
We didn't go to the hospital. Dad rinsed her out with some water, which was also traumatic. That Dad was being, and then it's scarring nicely on the inside. No front damage. It really didn't even swell the next day too badly. It just
good.
You could tell, like you can still tell. But
that's always the hardest part. Is like, do we go to urgent care or not?
But injured.
Yeah.
Well,
there we go.
For me, it's like a 30-minute trip. I got to get in the car, load them up. Yeah, there's no urgent care. I'm living in a town with 5,000 people. The closest thing I have at urgent care is the Ambisol. All right. Okay, you good?
Gotcha. It's
so it is like a decision. Like, okay, are we going to the doctor? Because if we're going to the doctor, it's a thing.
That's more of a commitment. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, we've got like 5 within a 10-minute drive either way. And all of them are on network now because we have better insurance. So yeah, that's good. That's good. That's great.
Lucky you.
Oh yeah, look at that.
You want to mail one to me?
High deductible plan, but they're all in network. So anyway, Ben, how's it going?
Good. Kids are actually recovering. So they both were sick in the last episode, but they're both recovering now. My daughter's still got an ear infection that has migrated from the right ear to the left ear. So now they're both gross, and she's still super happy and sweet as always, but just not sleeping super well. So we're on a new antibiotic that we got today. So hopefully that knocks it out and we don't have to go see the ENT and start talking about options and all that fun stuff. So she's doing well. Son's doing pretty well. His cough finally went away. So he's doing well, and we're all pretty good. Nobody in the house is sick right now. Just, the basic stuff.
Dude, well, there you go. That's par for the course, guys. Typical degrees of parenting here. It's got someone coughing, got someone with an ear infection. It's just how it is. This is how it is. And I'm glad that this is part of the podcast because it's literally never ending. There are so many parents that empathize with this, what we just did a little roundtable on. But with that said, that's kind of our status going into our final episode of the year. But let's go ahead and dive into the meat of our episode here. And that's our biggest parenting learning of the year, as well as our biggest parenting moment of the year. Kind of just saw this on the fly leading up to this episode. And we I think we have a kind of a general idea of, after a quick little brainstorm of what we deem is our best moment of the year. if Ben doesn't say the birth of a new child, then
No.
loss right there. No, but
No.
Ben, do you want to kick it off, or does Andrew want to kick it off, or do you want me to kick it off? How you want to go about this?
I know my learning moment, but I don't know if I have the best one down yet.
The best moment. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. How
I mean,
about how about we
There
do
we
how about we do our learning moments first? Each of us do our learning moments, and then we'll do just our favorite parenting moment of the year. And I have a learning moment as well. But Andrew, if you have one in the chamber ready
I've
to
got
go,
one.
why don't you fire off?
Okay, so when your kids are little, they always put their hands in your mouth, right? Like it's just a thing that they do. They reach up and they do that. And I've taken to like, nah, right? I'll nibble on them, and right. That's bad idea one, because now my 18-month, 19-month, whatever she is, she's like, ooh, I can bite people. So learning lesson one, don't teach your kid to bite people, because anyway. But the moment I realized I had screwed up this year was when she had my hand and she took my finger and she stuck it in her mouth and she bit down as hard as she could on my finger. And like, instant reaction, not even thinking, whoop, bam! And she got a full, like, 4 fingers right to the mouth and was like, what just happened to me? What just, I bit Dad, he always bites me, and then he smacked me on the mouth, and that was great. So now I'm the guy who smacks his kid.
Yeah.
All right.
Come on now.
Right? And like, that was number 2, and then I'm like, and 2, I basically taught her how to do this. Okay. Like I was just down in the dumps, because, and it wasn't even a thought reaction thing. It was like an instant.
Yeah. It was just,
right. It was like, okay, now I have to like remember that she is going to hurt me and actively stop myself from flinch responses. This is going to be a fun part of my life.
So your learning there is just,
yeah.
You would just lump that into patience?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Well, so tonight we were laying on the floor because we all had to snuggle on the floor for whatever reason. And she had her sister's hand and she put it in her mouth. And she actually like did the dainty nibble thing like I saw her. And she goes, and she's like, I'm watching. Like, she's like, I know what's going on here. So I'm like, okay, you finally figured out how to play bite, but I don't know if I'm okay with play biting either. Yeah. So there's a whole, like, Dad screwed up on this one, but that's my learning moment is if you're going to nibble on your kids, figure out how to make sure they're not nibbling on other people.
I kind of have this problem. That's the thing, though, especially with my daughter. Like, I just, it's like this. What is that urge to just like nibble on your
so
little?
Delicious.
They're so cute, and you're just like But my daughter picked up the same thing, and then there's one time where I was like just holding her. She was on my shoulder, and she's just getting all in my neck, and then she put her head over my shoulder, kind of toward where like my is this your lats or your traps? Your traps, right? Yeah. And she just bit on the trap so hard. I'm like, oh my gosh. Where did
Especially
that
when
come
they start
from?
getting those little teeth.
Yeah. And then she bit and she laughed so hard. And it's like they're not being malicious. They just like the reaction, and they don't realize that it's it's not a good thing. And when they learn that play, then that translates to like other kids, and it's like, okay, it's a problem. So like it's hard to find that balance, but like I mean I'm guilty of that too. Like that's I don't know, you just nibble on
flinch reactions, man.
Yeah. It was, I had this immediate like, oh crap, I did that. Okay.
That's
learning not to flinch react is
popping your kids.
Chapter 1 in having toddlers. So welcome. Welcome to the world of your kid abusing you and trying not to react in like a super like negative normal or like a physical way. Yeah, in a normal way you would react to any other human being.
Like any other human being that, though. Gets a couple incisors dug into my finger, they're probably not coming back without a black eye. Like I'm
I mean, we'd all be lying to ourselves if we were saying like we are the perfect parent. We've never done that. Like there are a handful of times where like kids did something like that where they were just kind of like they'd be running full speed around the house playing tag or whatever, and they just like bash into me, and it just out of reaction, I just kind of did a Heisman, and it just like palmed, and they basically just went right into a wall, and then I push back, and and they fall back. I'm like, I'm sorry, but like I gotta go on defense. I didn't like what's happening. It's like a big rush, and you help them up. You're like, are you good? Let's not run into Dad. So yeah, I mean,
get that moment when I'm like holding the infant, right? She's 20 pounds, right? At most at this point. And I'm like, okay, so I am 10 times her size.
Mm-hmm.
What would it be like if I had a guy who was 10 times my size, who was like, hey, Andrew, let me just throw you around. Like, what would that be like? Would I enjoy that? Would I be like, this is amazing?
You know what I did recently? So like, I'm so used to like picking up my daughter, right? And you put your hands kind of under their armpit, rib cage, right? And you pick them up and stuff. And I was just like in my head, like I saw my wife and she was looking cute, like by the fireplace. And I just kind of wanted her to scoot to the side so I could sit next to her. So I approach her like I do my daughter and just stick my hands under her armpit and I try to pick her up. I'm like, damn, this is a lot heavier. This doesn't work normally. And all she does is she just raises her shoulders a little bit. She's like, what the hell are you doing?
Why? Get off me. I'm not your child.
Yeah. Anyway, Ben, do you want to lead off with your learning moment of your year?
Yeah. I think the big one, and this is, I forgot where I heard it. I think it was on a post somewhere, but in a sort of encapsulated it. I think the best way that I had heard is, I talk a lot about, my son is super smart, really, really like has a lot of big feelings, really like intuitive kid, really wants to be helpful, really wants to do jobs. But as soon as he's out of the headspace of wanting to be helpful, he's obstinate, right? And he is very, very stubborn, and he'll come up with 100 different reasons of why he doesn't want to do what you asked him to do and different ways to work around it. He's very like logical in his thought process, which is super frustrating when it's 7:30 in the morning. I'm late for work. I'm trying to get my daughter ready. I'm trying to get everybody out the door. And my son is standing there trying to reason with me and argue with me as to why he should, I don't know, have ice cream for breakfast. And so I used to get, and I still do, I mean, it's, nobody's perfect. Like I used to get really angry with him, like just super upset. Like, no, like get out the door, get to the car. I'm like kind of pushing him out the door, trying to get out there. And what I've realized is like a lot of the reason he's doing that is usually one, for the attention, because he's getting me to engage with him. But two, like your 18-month-old biting, like it's for the reaction. And so what I found is like in those tough situations, I can react in a couple of different ways. But generally, if it goes a lot better, if instead of reacting with authority and anger or like just being upset and trying to get him moving, if I react with either empathy, I try to empathize with him and understand where he's coming from and have a few minutes for that conversation, because the more I argue with him, the longer it's going to take to get out the door. But if I sit there and actually listen to him, a lot of times, even though it feels like that takes a long time, it actually takes less time to get him to where I want him to go than if I just tried to fight him.
Yeah, but I have to win, Ben. I just have to win.
Yeah.
So
well,
like it doesn't.
And that's the other thing, is the second part of that is detaching my ego and my emotion from that interaction with my 3-year-old, because there is no winning that argument, right? Like I could either say, no, I'm the dad and I'm in charge and you do what I say, or I can step back from that and say, I shouldn't approach this with that sort of authoritative mindset, because for him, it doesn't work. It doesn't do anything. It just makes the situation worse, makes him drag his feet more. He ends up crying. Everybody's upset. Nobody feels good. But if I can detach myself and say, okay, you have these two options. I'm going to let you choose, but I'm going to move away and go finish these things while you choose what you would like to do. Generally, when he has that time and space to think, he's good. He figures out what he wants to do. He makes his choice. He, chooses rain boots over Crocs or whatever the argument's about. And then we get out the door. But I have to detach myself from that, because if I get engaged in that like emotional struggle in the moment, then everybody gets upset and we never end up in a place where, we're in a good mood leaving the door. And that's not how I want to leave my house. That's not how I want to interact in our home.
I mean, maybe this will be my big learning for next year, because I just feel like I'm not there, like I feel like I always default to like this authoritarian, like, no, listen, we got to get it done. Let's go. And I know I struggle with that. Like, it's just hard sometimes. But that's everything that you just laid out is something that I'm very conscious of in myself, that I could definitely use some improvement. And as we go into like our next episode for like, our New Year's resolutions for, like that would definitely be like a real one. There's, yeah, that's definitely something and this is something like you've talked about previously, where like you had like different tactics for how you would, move forward with kind of bringing those moments down and getting that sense of calm before you walk out the door, or kind of de-escalating, a toddler, right?
Yeah. And it doesn't work. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say it works all the time, or even, probably 80% of the time. It's like, 50-50. And we still have mornings where I'm in a bad mood, or I'm just drained. And I just don't have it in me to do all of those things and empathize in that. And I'm just get out the door and I just pick him up and move him. But, again, on the days where I do take the time to do that, to empathize, to detach a little bit and say, okay, is there another route we can take?
Yeah.
Everybody ends up happier and leaves in a better mood and has a better day. Drop off goes better. My day goes better. And I don't spend the day like kind of ruminating on like, man, this morning was really hard. Like we're going to have to do some, repair and kind of fixing this when he gets home. Yep. He's in a better mood when he gets to school. And everybody is generally happier.
Well, if I were to kind of throw one, like I guess my biggest learning, there's a recent podcast that I listened to called Diary of a CEO. He talks about like a lot of different topics, particularly in business and all that. But there was one interview that he had with an actor named Cole Sprouse, who he was like a twin child actor. He was like in the movie Big Daddy. He was in a bunch of stuff.
Oh yeah.
But it was actually like a really in-depth, really good, grounded conversation. There's one quote that Cole said that he pretty much got from someone else, but it really resonated with me. And it was basically like, your life is basically a bunch of transactions where you're trading trauma for wisdom, right? There are a lot of things that happen to you that aren't amazing, but they are kind of meant to happen so that you can learn, right? And then I instantly like thought about that from a parenting perspective, right? Like all of parenting it's basically just a series of mistakes and just like missteps, and just like hoping that you're not like fracturing your relationship with your kid, or you're not like breaking your kid, or like not messing up, but you are. But all of this is like wisdom for you to like grow and learn. And the biggest like learning is basically admitting that I'm wrong to my kid, right? If I make one of those missteps, right, and I learn, it's good. I learn from that. But I think on top of that is telling my kid that I learned from that. Dude, I know I was angry yesterday. Let me tell you, I know I got mad. This is why I got mad, but I want you to know that I love you and I shouldn't have done it that way. I wanted to teach you this, but I shouldn't have done it that way. I don't think that was something I ever got from my mom or dad, really, right? They just kind of yelled, they set their rules, and then like I abide by that rule, but and I know that they have made a mistake, but they never like admitted that, right? I think admitting that you're wrong is actually really powerful for your relationship with your kid. And again, that's still something that I'm learning how to do, but I know I'm wrong in a lot of things, whether it's like something that I tell them or the way that I told them. And that's a big learning for me this year is, I guess, admitting that I'm wrong. And that's it's part of the journey of making a bunch of missteps and gaining wisdom as we go. But and as a parent, I feel like we'll never get that full picture of like, oh, I'm a complete whole parent, right? Even all these parenting experts that you see on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, like they're learning as they go. And that
when Dr. Becky admits to making mistakes, who's like the guru in raising kids, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, Oh, I screw up with my kids constantly. I was tired and I yelled at him because he didn't want the dinner I made because he gave me an attitude.
Exactly.
She's like, then I had to go fix it. I had to use the things I literally write books about to go like fix my relationship with my teenager because, you know, I made a mistake.
And she's present enough to be like, here's what I would have done if I was in a better state of mind, you know, and like, here's the proper approach, you know? So, that I would say is probably my biggest learning and something I'm going to have to continue learning, in the new year. But if we flip it to the biggest moments of the parenting year, I'll just go ahead and you know, pivot to that right now. My biggest moment, really, so we kind of highlighted this a little bit. I may have like breezed over it, but like I've realized that like parenting has like three like groups, right? Three pods, right? You have like 0 to 6, 7 to 12, 13 to 18, and they're out, right? Like then they go to college. And that like block number 1 is already done with Henry. So time is really, really flying. And it's kind of scary when you like think about that. Like he's going to be 7 here in a little bit. I'm like, wow, block 1 is done. And now I only have block 2 and that's going to fly. And then he's going to be in high school and then he's gone. But I'd say the biggest moment was 1, that realization, but 2, this has really been like the year of reading for him. I'm sorry, I'm not learning, reading for him. And gosh, just his mental growth is insane. And just to see that blossom is just crazy. And really getting to, my favorite thing is just getting to play games with him, right? Now that he can read, he can read Pokemon cards. He can really understand what everything does. And, you know, being able to unlock a new dynamic to play with my kid beyond just like blocks and little things like that, but like real, like deeper conversations about, you know, the NFC East and who has the better odds to win, because he's like understanding stats and numbers and strategy for different card games. I think that's kind of like the bigger...
You're teaching him online gambling for sports betting, aren't you? He's got the app and he's in there doing your all-star bets.
DraftKings for kids.
Yeah.
Use the affiliate link down below for your first free parlay. You know, okay. So
you've lost $1,000 to your own kid this year.
But I would say that's kind of like my one of the bigger moments is just the evolution of my kid and really seeing it. You know, he went from Bulbasaur to Ivysaur. There's my Pokemon reference for the year. And it's going to continue in 2024. And it's amazing to watch that. So I mean, love my baby daughter, love her, biggest crush ever, and you know, and Colin as he continues to blossom and grow, such a smart, young, creative kid. But you know, if I were to like nail one, is just the evolution of my eldest and watching that happen. So yeah, man. What about you guys? Sorry for ranting on there.
Oh, let's see. I mean, I get the win of my 18-month-old is finally saying I love you. So that's always fun, right? The first time that happened on the way out from bedtime, like, love you. And it's like, wait, what did you say? Do that again. And then she'd be like,
do it again.
Not say it again. Say it again. Yeah.
My favorite was Henry couldn't say his L's. He would replace the L with a Y. So instead of love, he would say yuv. I yuv you. And then Colin, he doesn't do the Y, he does a W. So wuv. But when that falls away and then they replace it with the proper L, that's a sad day. You're like, oh wait, you don't say it like that anymore. It's
It's heartbreaking
doing it
when
properly.
they start pronouncing things properly, and you're like, "Oh man, yep, you're growing up."
Yeah.
Right
so there's the first
right.
day that they say it, and that is a big moment. I will agree with you there, Andrew. But then it's the first day that they say it properly, and it's like, oh no,
now it's gone.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, for me, I think there's a couple. First, the birth of our daughter. You know, we weren't really sure if we were going to have more than one kid. And I mean, I cannot imagine the world without her. Like, it's like when you have your first kid, right? Like, it's such a life-changing experience that having our son and our daughter and watching them interact with each other, especially now that she's older, like she's turned 10 months. She's trying to learn how to walk now. So she's like using little push walkers and all kinds of stuff. And it almost seems like she's even more accelerated than our son was. Like everything's happening faster for her, which, makes that, like you said, kind of that passage of time piece even more apparent. It's just like she was a newborn, and then all of a sudden we're home, and it's like now she's going to be a year old in a month and a half, 2 months here. I think super proud of that, but I think one of the biggest things that I've noticed and that I've been really happy with and really excited about is, as my son's gotten a little bit older, kind of approaching 3.5, 4 years old, he started to deliberately spend more time with me. Which is, he's choosing to spend time with me, which is, your kid loves you, but like boys love their moms, and they always will, and they're always going to be, mommy's baby, and that's great. But as he's gotten older, he's started to, like, I had to fix the dishwasher earlier today, and so I was putting new gaskets in the dishwasher, and he was right there next to me. He stopped watching his movie so he could come over and see what I was doing. And he asked, like, what are all the parts? What does this do? How does this work? And so he's getting into that phase where, like, as I'm doing things, he's really interested in just being right next to me and watching, like, from working out to fixing stuff around the house to running errands to, even doing like bedtime stuff. Like he's asking me to do his bedtime and his bath and those things that are typically more like, mom does a lot of the comforting. Not that I don't, but that's just, she's the default for that. It's awesome to watch that.
One thing that I struggled with lately is like, it's cool when that happens, but then sometimes you're just so gassed out at the end of the day, and you're just like tired, and they want to do that with you, and they express that love, but you're just like, man, I just can't right now. Like, I just like, let's go. Let's hurry up with the bath time. Let's go hurry up with the bedtime. It's like, what questions do you have? Like, I don't know. Can we talk about tomorrow? Like, that's where I sometimes like struggle, especially of late. There's just been a lot of like work stress, and then there's just and any sort of stress, whether that's like money stress, time stress, any of that like runs you thin, and and you start to not take it out on your kids, but like they're a little, even like the most minor aggravations, just like take those moments that could be so special, and then they just get so like dragged down, which I wish could be. I need to be better about that for sure. But sorry to cut you off there.
No, that's perfect. That that is the basis of a lot of the discussions and like philosophy stuff that I've been reading over the last year or so. 2 good books. So we do our New Year's kind of chat. 2 good books I would definitely recommend for everybody: The Daily Dad and The Daily Stoic, both by Ryan Holiday. Writes a lot of like really relatable stuff about Stoic philosophy. And one of the big things they talk about is the passage of time, and the fact that, you should have an accounting of every day when you get to the end of your day, right? Whether that's journaling or just thinking through your day and how you can be better, do things better, or, kind of live more presently and more in the moment, because it is literally the only thing you have. The past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist. You have no control over either. And the only thing you have is right now. So running, thinking about that, especially when you see your kids, what's up, buddy? Especially when you see your kids, every day that they go to sleep and wake up, they're 1 day older. And every day you go to sleep and wake up, you're 1 day older. So I'm never going to get that day back again.
Just real quick, my boy was over here, and he's about to go to bed, but oh, there you go. So if you're watching on YouTube, by the way, I got my son here, who I haven't really shown him too much on the Dad Verb channel or anything like that, but this is Henry. He is how old now?
2, right? 3.
He's 6. He's gonna be 7 in a little bit, and just like the thing that I was talking about earlier, just my love of like playing Pokemon, doing just watching football. It's been there's my Pokemon check mark yet again. But Henry, what have you been doing while we've been recording this podcast? What have you been doing?
Watching football.
Who's playing right now?
Packers Giants, Dolphins, Tennessee Titans.
And what are the scores right now?
10-7 halftime. Packers up, and 10-7 halftime. Tennessee up.
Okay, so like, just
Wait,
like,
Wow.
Wait, but does he know who's going to win? Because I know who's going to win.
they're asking, do you know who's going to win?
No,
Who do you think is going to win?
I think Tennessee and Miami.
Really? Miami?
Mm.
Okay.
See, I know who's going to win. It's the team with the higher score.
Man, so Henry, so when it comes to when it comes to like the moments that we're talking about, like this is one of those things where I just love your passion for football. And what team in particular do you love the most?
Cowboys.
Yeah, I lost him. He's not a Jets fan. Yeah, I know.
That's all right. We can forgive him. He's still young.
I mean, he is local to Dallas. I mean,
yeah, he is. So real quick, before you go
born
to
and
bed,
raised.
let's just tell everyone what happened with the Dallas Cowboys and the Eagles yesterday. And what did that mean for them in the playoffs?
The Cowboys are the best in the NFC East.
Are they?
Yeah.
Well, actually, are they or better than the
Yes.
Eagles? They are.
Yes.
Oh, they actually took it over. Okay, you hear the confidence in his voice.
Yep.
He's like,
Confidence. He's like, yeah,
Yes,
I looked at the
know.
stats, Dad.
So what all happened yesterday? Who won? What was the score?
33-13 Dallas.
Nice. I mean, like,
All
it's so
right.
funny. Like, and I honestly don't remember the score, but I don't doubt him. Like, this kid is his recall of football is amazing. But anyway, I just love his passion for even the things and just the way he shows it. It's been really cool. I love you, man.
Love you.
All right, man. Can you get a hug before you go to bed?
Yeah.
All right, man. So, well, thanks for that happy interruption, guys. But
No worries.
anyway, what were you saying? Sorry, I saw him like scooting away for bed. I was like, man, I didn't even talk to him tonight. So.
No.
you know what I was
There
finding?
is no issue here saying goodnight to your kid.
I always love that we're all amazed by little kids' recall, like how good their memory is. But you got to remember, like, they got the same size wetware as the rest of us. They just have less to store.
That's
so
true.
recall's just better, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
In
It's just
40 years, you won't be able to recall the game yesterday. I promise. It's not good.
It's just so interesting though, like how his attention is so focused and his passion is so like. So he goes to his soccer practice with a couple of our neighbors that are also on his team, and the whole time he'll just be yapping away about football, and the dad who's like taking him, he's like, "Are you what really?" And just like because football alone is a very complex game, the downs, and all that, just the way plays work, and screens and slants and all that, and he knows everything. It's amazing. And that's one of our favorite games that we like to play at the moment. It's actually not Pokemon. It's making up plays, where I would like make up a color and a route, and then he would do the route, and then I'd have to like throw it to him. So it's that's been really fun. But anyway, before I don't recall where you were at, Ben. But I know we're coming up on time here. What were you saying?
Ben was talking about his Stoic philosophy in a book that he read, and he listed two really good books, and I'm not going to remember the names, so make sure you put them in the chat so I can fill out the details later. But it reminded me that while he has the Stoic books, if you haven't read it, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a is probably one of the best books out there in terms of how to mind your manners in terms of like emotional responses and just what you should really care about. And to Andrew's point earlier, right? One of the first things he talks about is you really have this bank of so many things that you can ever give about in your entire life. And you use up 97% of them by the time you're like 3, right? And so then you have to monitor, and when you hit your 20s, you're down to like 8, right? And so you really have to mind your bank of things you care about anymore. But it's a great book that I think the title says it all. It actually adds that layer of humor and that layer of what I would call enjoyment to the non-fiction self-improvement category that, like, a lot of times authors will give you, but they're so serious that it's like, dude, you've said it 8 times. Like, you don't need to tell me that I have to be vulnerable again. Just move on to the next thought in this chapter, please. Right? Like, it's a thing that goes bad, but he's a great author. I forget his name. But it's got that jovial feeling to it. If that
Drop
makes
it in
sense.
the show notes, man. Drop in the show
Mark
notes.
Manson.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, you got it.
You know, the funny part though is reading through the book description. That book is based primarily on Stoic philosophy.
Yeah.
So it really is. It's so interesting. It's just it's a humorous way of presenting the Stoic principle, but it's essentially control what you can control, and everything else is out of your control. So let it go.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, I mean, so this is kind of this is going to be our last episode of the year. This is our first year of doing a podcast. 2023, it was fun. Started off with just me and Ben, and then we brought Andrew on a few episodes in. I don't recall what month we actually started this, but semi-consistent. We really got consistent when Andrew joined. And we're up to 30 some odd episodes. 35 episodes. So, I mean, next year, can we get to a full 52? I don't know. That sounds like a lot. I'm
taking
tired.
Christmas off.
But we'll see. Yeah. We're definitely going to take breaks here
Episode
and there.
1 started March 16th.
Look at that. Okay.
Wow,
so
not bad.
Starting in March and having 30 episodes in, that's been pretty fun. It's been pretty fun. So I think it's been a fun testing ground. This is something that we kind of wanted to just try initially, but it seems to grow into a consistent thing. And I think, with it living on its own channel on YouTube, there have been a lot of things that we've learned. And I think my plan, and I kind of discussed it with these two, but I think my plan is really to bring it back onto just the Dad Verb YouTube channel and having that be kind of the one source of it all, instead of bringing it into a couple different places. So, big things for Dad Verb coming up in the next year. Couple little changes here and there, with these two faces being a much more recurring set of guys on Dad Verb. But as we close out the year, Christmas coming around, all that stuff, do you guys have any kind of closing thoughts? Anything that you wanted to leave our dads with here? Kind of final words?
When you're ready to teach your kids how to share, remember, you own everything and you're already sharing with the oldest, so they have to share with their siblings. Right? That's life hack number 1. I own it all. It's my toy. It's not your toy. I'm already sharing with you.
There's your daily dose of Stoic philosophy, guys.
Yeah. Nailed it.
Ben?
No, I mean, I think the big thing is just saying thank you to everybody who's listened to the podcast this year. Really appreciate everybody that's tuned in, subscribed, been a part of this. I appreciate you guys for the fun and the serious conversations that we've gone through. It's cool to connect with a community of dads and have these guests on who are doing some really amazing things in the sort of fatherhood and parenting space, and just to have great conversations with people. So I hope to do more of that next year, and thank you to everybody who's listened so far. And thank you guys for all the time and effort that you put into this to make this thing a reality.
Oh yeah. Well,
I mean, Ben said thank you, but for the record, 3.4 thousand views with over 700 hours watched of this podcast. That's kind of impressive.
Awesome. Yeah, that's the funny thing.
And that's just YouTube. That's not even including everybody on Spotify and Apple and Google and TuneIn.
I don't know. I know Spotify. I mean, I'm sorry. I know the YouTube numbers and analytics and where I'm at there. I know Instagram plays, Instagram reels, and what metrics I'm supposed to be meeting there. But when it comes to this podcast, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful for plays and listens and downloads. I see them coming in through all the platforms, whether it's Spotify or Google or Apple, and or even on the YouTube channel, the Dad Verb Podcast YouTube channel. And it's just cool to see. I don't know that I have any sort of I want to reach this many downloads I was hungry for on YouTube when I first started Dad Verb. I'm just happy that guys are here. Guys are listening. Yeah. And I thank you.
I don't know how they're getting this number. 16,000 downloads of the audio podcast. Apple, Google, Spotify over the last year.
That's really
I don't know if
fun,
that's good.
man.
I don't know if that's
I don't know if it's good or bad, but
thank you.
Thank you. You guys are here. You guys are listening, and it's incredible. And as just a quick, big shout out to a follower from day one. His name is Chris Molina. He's a Dallas native, or he's a Dallas local. He's been listening to Dad Verb Podcast since the very, very, very beginning, and he just welcomed baby number 2 recently. So I wanted to give him a shout out a little bit ago, but I'm sorry for it's long overdue. But to round out our first year, big shout out to you, Chris
The
Molina.
longest
Thank
listener.
You. Yeah, one of our longest listeners, man. Props to you, and journeying further into fatherhood, man. So that vasectomy episode is right up your alley. I'm kidding. Anyway, thank you so much to finish off 2023. That'll do it for this week's episode. This year of the Dad Verb Podcast will be back very shortly in 2024. Again, as usual, check the links in the show notes or the YouTube description to join us on Discord. And you can always visit dadverb.com for courses from pregnancy up through year 1 of fatherhood. As always, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one. Have a great year. Peace.